Welcome to another video from Dr. Lock. I wanted to touch base on a subject I mentioned a few months back when we were talking about the Panasonic Tough tablets, and that topic was Zello. Zello is an internet-based two-way radio system. So what that means is that instead of two-way radios like this communicating over the airways where it's just sending a signal through the air, these actually send a signal through the internet and then it pops out on one of these ones. These are SIM card based radios, and there's probably more technical names for them, okay, but basically they work through a SIM card. You put a SIM card in it, goes through the internet on data and then pops out wherever they may be. So these radios are not limited. You could use this radio in Australia, you could use this radio in America, and you'd be talking over it just like you would any other CB radio. So they're good in that regard. I wanted to give you the review as far as how they've been in a Locksmith workshop and how we're using them and the benefits I found with them and the downfalls I found with them. Okay, so to start off with, I've been testing it on an iPad. It works quite well. The iPad's always powered in the office, and that is there almost like an intercom system, and that worked quite well. We use it also on the phones as well, so if perhaps we need to get somebody's attention, we can call across and the phone will instantly start to speak. Let me give an example. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Okay, so it just pops straight through on your phone without needing to open the phone, without needing that notification or anything happening. We can also use it from the phone as well, so you don't need any handsets, any base stations or anything. You can just simply run this on your phones, this app which runs in the background, and it's always active. Let me show you. Test the office, test the office. Test the office, test the office. Alright, so it's been good in that regard on the mobile phone, but when you're driving and things, especially in New South Wales, you cannot touch, or actually across Australia, you cannot touch your mobile phone. Touch your mobile phone, you can be up for severe fines, loss of demerit points on your license, so it's not suitable in the car unless you've got your phone mounted and it's kind of the screen's not turned off and things like that. So I found that a huge limitation and not as practical in the vehicle, because in the vehicle you need something you can just pick up like a microphone, pull the trigger and start to speak, especially when you're driving. One of the other downfalls I found with these car mounted radios is that you had to select the channel, and the next downfall I found is you had to map the buttons so that you could actually just push a button to bring up the right channel. Unlike conventional two-way radios, you could just turn the channel and you're on the channel. These ones worked a little bit differently, such as you'd have to push that button, get on the channel and talk a little bit so the radio stays on that channel to be on that channel. So having multiple channels, looking after multiple channels on this type of radio or flicking between them is a little bit of an issue in the vehicle. But what I found best is that you pair up, you have a default channel. So each serviceman has a default channel. Let's say you've got 5 people, you'd have 5 channels, and each person is on their own channel. And from the office, then you're looking after 5 channels. Each person in their vehicle only really has 2 channels. The first one is their channel, so they talk and it comes out at the office. The second channel is where they can talk to everybody, such as, I need a 001 strike at this job, anyone around to give me one, something along those lines. They talk to everybody. Other ones is if they're just wanting to talk to the office and the office alone and not disturb everyone else who's using your network, you would simply just have their own channel for that. So what we found is that when you've got multiple staff and they're talking to everybody, it's disturbing everybody. And these radios, one of the benefits is you can make as many channels as you want. So we found it very good to give each individual worker their own channel, and in the office it receives all those channels. But these radios only basically communicate on 2 channels, if that makes sense. So everybody has the ability to talk to everybody, but most of the time they're just talking direct one-to-one. Okay. That's how we found it best to work. Also, this particular device is like an Android mobile phone. This and this, probably run the same operating system. So anything you can do on a mobile phone, you can do on this. You can watch YouTube, you can do all sorts of things. What we found it best to do is to start up in the default program of Zello. So it boots up. As soon as it boots up, it boots up. It takes about a minute and a half to boot up and be in the Zello program. It's operated on the back by a hardwired cable, so I've been able to hardwire it straight into the vehicle, so when the vehicle boots up, it boots up on the right channel, and we have a channel selected as a default. So it boots up, goes straight to that channel. After a minute and a half, the operator can just pick up this microphone and talk into it. The buttons and all the rest are not really of any use to us. The up and down buttons, I was very disappointed in that we couldn't flick between channels with them. When you're actually driving, and my particular radio has multiple channels, I can actually see on the screen, I have to select which channel. A little bit of a distraction while you're driving. I have tried mapping these buttons so that I could push to get to that channel, but to date it's still a little bit of an issue. Another tip that I found with this particular type of radio is to set it to 30 minutes before the screen turns off, meaning that if you jump in your car and you turn it on, it's going to be 30 minutes before it wants to close the screen down. You can re-wake the screen up just by simply giving it a double tap and a small sending out a short burst across the channel. But by having it active for 30 minutes means that most of our driving is about 30 minutes or less, so it works quite well to have that 30-minute screensaver kicked in. As far as everything else, the loudness of it, it's good. The microphone, you don't actually need to have this microphone hanging around. You can simply mount this in your car, and if you just select one of these buttons as a talk button, when you want to talk, you just push and hold it down. You can pay more money to actually be on your own private network and not the free type of network. Even the free network, you can secure your channels with a password so people can't jump or they can't jump on your channel. And once again, it is digital and encrypted, so nobody can hear you. Even if you're using the free one and you've got a password, you're not going to be able to be heard anywhere unless they've selected your network and they got your password. So it's private in that regard. The help buttons here as well can be used. They can be used to trigger multiple actions. On one of them, I set it up so that if you push that, it started to call my mobile phone. That can be done as well, but it's over engineering for what I found it to like, for what we use it for. The next thing was remote mounting this radio somewhere in the vehicle so that all you've got on your dash is a handpiece. I found that possible just by simply using an RJ45 male-female extension cord. You could plug that in, you buy them from eBay 2030, you plug that in and then you plug in wherever this is, and that way you could have your radio mounted in a remote spot so it's not clogging up your dash. I found that to be good. You mount it under a seat, mount it behind the seat, it's still got enough good bass sound to be able to allow it to work. So all in all, I found these radios, look, they're over-engineered. There's more on this radio than what we need it for, of just using it as a simple communications. The other option was to use one of these in the vehicle. But the problem is, if you use one of these in the vehicle, which I would have liked to have done, the problem is that if a police officer sees you, they're still going to pin you for using a mobile phone, even though it's actually been used as a radio. It still could be classified as a mobile phone, because if you look at it, this is pretty much a mobile phone using dedicated apps. When I turn this one on too, now let's look at this handpiece one. It does sit there in idle with the screen off, but when I turn this one off, a lot of the time I've got to push on that to get to the app. Not a huge thing. I do have some buttons on the side, SOS, push to talk, up and down, and a camera function. Camera functions and things like that, I don't know how much use I'm going to get out of that, but on the Zello network you can transfer photos as well. You can also do that on a mobile phone. There's been a bit of argument in the workshop saying, why are we going back to CBs? It's 20-30-year-old technology. They invented the mobile phone for a reason. That's what a mobile phone's for. Why are we mucking around or spending money on these type of things? And I just wanted to touch on that as well. When you're driving along and you want to send a message, you've got to go to your phone, and then you've got to unlock the screen, select who you're sending the text message to, and we all know how dangerous that can be, sending text messaging while driving or reading text message while driving. These are more used as an announcement system. So if you're driving along and you hear, oh, quick, turn around, that customer wants you back then, or quick, turn around, there's another job in that area you're leaving, or I know you're on your way home, but there's a quick lockout, can you grab that? That's what this is for, to kind of be an announcement system to stop you in your tracks and deliver that information without you needing to unlock, receive, read that information. It's designed for that. And that's where we are trialing it on. The other option as well is when you're in the office and you're on a phone call, I'd like to hear announcements come through. Yeah, all clear from here, from Kent Street, heading over to Marsden. Something along those lines. So I know then the operator or locksmith then is moving on and they're happy. you can't always answer mobile phones. And if you're on a call and a serviceman's trying to give you a message, you can't do two things at once. If they send me a message, I'm not going to see it until I'm off the phone. If they try and call me, I can't answer them until I've finished talking to the customer. So by screaming it out in the background, I can do two things at once. And that's been a bit of a benefit. It's also been a bit of a benefit to be able to just, send that sound through the mobile phone and it just squirts out without it needing to, be acknowledged and then it will talk. The next thing about it too that I did like was that you've got the
test the office.
You can replay your messages. All your messages are there replayed. You can send messages between if you wanted. You could really embrace this network similar to a management system where it does audio, images, and things along those lines. Very similar to a mobile phone, and that's why I wouldn't confuse the two. I wouldn't kind of use those functions because we use a mobile phone for those functions. But as a paging system, it's been pretty good. Now you can get SIM cards for as low as $9 per month, and you can put a SIM card in this with really big data plans, which I find brilliant. So what you can actually do is just put the SIM card in there and, away you go. You've always got 4G connectivity to it, so anywhere a mobile phone can work, it can work. So all in all, with Zello, I've been reasonably happy. It's a little bit quirky on some of the buttons. That's the only thing that is the downside. I wasn't able to kind of map these buttons and use them like a general CB where you could just flick to a channel and you're 100% on that channel. It was more like flick to that, and if you don't do anything, it'll go back to its default channel afterwards. So there was a little few quirks there. All in all, not too unimpressed, but not 1,000%, impressed and not 1,000% happy. But for what we're using it for, we're getting it to work and we're making it work. So with these radios here, cost wise about $300 off eBay. This one here was about $200 off eBay. It's fair. Then you've got your ongoing costs. We did try Zello Business, where it's a paid subscription, but to be quite honest, it was just an extra $50-$60 per month that we really didn't need. They did have this function of recording everything, and we were going to go actually to 2 channels per driver, and they have one channel they talk on, and then they push another button, which is like an office recording. So we were going to try that, and basically what we wanted was that when we come into the office, I could replay all the voice announcements that they had left on a particular channel to know what stock was used and to know what invoices was to write up and any important notes that driver would have and want to communicate back to the office. And we were doing that by you holding down the red button. You'd speak and you'd say, I need more invoice books, I need more 001s in my van, I've used my last one, things along those lines. So when you're back in the office, you've got these important announcements ready to go. Yes, you can send text messages, but a lot of the time when you're around on the job or driving around, things are coming to your brain and you need to offload them without needing to jump on your text message or anything or make a phone call. When you're bombarded with phone calls as a locksmith or real estate or any other sort of trade that is, phone calls can be too much sometimes. And by having little voice announcements, easy to offload and easy to receive again when you've got that time, is the ideal goal that we were trying to achieve for that. To date, we haven't got the office channel in working that good, mainly because our office base station was still using the handheld because we haven't got it set up properly. We're just really in trial mode here. As far as the two-way communication about after a job's been needed and the operator talking back to the office, we found it very good. As far as talking across all the channels, talking to everyone, it's a rare occurrence, and that's a good thing because you will really disturb everybody when you do that. So I might be in the office on a call, somebody else might be in the toilet trying to do their business, and somebody else might be in a movie, and if you scream across something silly, then everyone's going to hear it. So the multiple open channels doesn't get used by us a lot, but the one-on-one channels definitely do. All right, so using it as an intercom system, I found that you can pick up tablets very cheap. You can install this on it. We're using an old 5-6-year-old iPad that's now kind of old technology. We've plugged it in permanently to a USB charger and we can wall mount it, and that's working brilliantly as an intercom in the office. So I can select the channel to talk to it directly, or it can be there listening to all of the channels so that way if something comes across you can respond to it. And that was a very cheap and simple method of doing that. As if you want to buy these things here, they're a couple of $100 a piece, but it's really not necessary. You can do it on old iPads or even old mobile phones. So that was the Zello network review. I'm still happy with it, but yeah, there still is more to learn, and there's still a few little bugs that we've got to sort out. When the devices are hardwired and mounted in, they're usable. When they're just sitting there flopping around with a USB cable, they're not really usable. So if you're going to do it, you have to kind of install them properly, otherwise you probably find the system won't get used too well. As far as using it on your mobile phone, yes you can, but I wouldn't use it as your primary. I really like the idea of having this when the car turns on, it turns on, and then you can throw a bit of conversation backwards and forwards. It's a little bit easier. This push to talk function kind of never really took off with mobile phones in Australia. We did have it for a little while where you could push the button on your mobile phone and it was a push to talk exactly the same, but it never really took off. So now using this Zello, it seems to be the way to go. Also, I haven't seen too many other locksmiths start up any Zello channels. It really would be a good idea if you're in a small community or if you're in a place where you share jobs that you could actually have a Zello network. Work with your brother locksmith. I mean, it really would be cool if I got a call every now and again and it said, oh, I got a lockout going down here, anyone want it, who's the closest? Or I've got an emergency, baby locked inside, who's the closest? Because a lot of locksmiths do throw jobs between each other, and that's a good way to be we're all brothers in arms or brothers in pick guns, whatever you want to say, and it would be nice if that was happening, but to date nobody's kind of started up any sort of channel to do that. And automotively too, it would be brilliant to pick up the mic and say, I'm having this problem, anyone got that problem? But on saying that, you're going to start annoying everybody who's specialised in car work. They probably don't want to hear your problems while they've got their own problems. So good little system, can be used for multiple functions. Leave your comments down below if you use it, if you like it, if you don't like it, if it worked, didn't work, if you've tried it. Leave it down below, because this is all kind of experimental technology, which is based on old technology, but yet it's done with new technology. So in the olden days, we used to have CB radios in the car. We used to be able to do that because they were cheaper than mobile phones. Now mobile phones are cheap, but the problem is they're quite a distraction to use. And by using these as a sort of a voice recording, a voice paging system, I can see it of some benefit. But to how much money you want to invest on that and how it's going to suit your business, who knows? I mean, you might just use this with two old mobile phones and put one in the coffee room and one at the front desk. And when you need help, you can just simply push that and it'll come out over the mobile phone, which you could then pair up with a set of computer speakers to come out quite loud in the coffee room. So if you're at the front desk and you need help serving customers, you could simply just push it. I need service at the front. They'd hear that in a loud formation, and that would be nothing more than a glorified intercom system. But still, for the money, for the price, it's up to you on how you want to use it. But I find it quite effective for what we found it for. And we're still implementing and still got to install a couple more radios in all the cars, but all in all, yeah, decent little bit of kit. Leave your comments down below. Thanks for watching.